guys, the Lord here, back again with another edition of Flashback Fridays, and what I have for you today is the Hasbro Marvel Legends Smart Hulk Build-A-Figure Wave Beta Ray Bill. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, since I no longer have the packaging for this figure, let's first take a look-see at his lone accessory, good old Stormbreaker here, the proper version of good old Stormbreaker, might I add, not that bullshit from the MCU made out of a freaking Groot arm. I mean, come on guys, don't F with my canon, because those of you who know Beta Ray Bill know damn well that he was gifted Stormbreaker from Odin after he gave the mantle of Thor back to good old Goldilocks himself. That's the way it's been, that's the way it always will be, at least for those of us here in Overlord Productions. But at any rate, I think Hasbro did a really good job on this hammer. It's got the axe blade there, it's got the hammerhead there, it's got the little loop-de-loop on the end that you can wrap around his hand or wrist, maybe with a little bit of heat because it does seem a little bit small for that. And the extended handle, which I'm used to this being maybe half this size, but you know what, I'll take it. I think it looks fine. And if they gave us a classic Beta Ray Bill, I would not be mad if they reused this Stormbreaker at all, because it still looks good. And it is molded in that marbleized gold plastic, but I don't see a whole lot of marbling going on, at least not in mine. That said, taking a closer look at good old Horse Thor here, this guy came out great. I absolutely love the way this guy came out. Not my mind's eye view of Beta, mind you. I much prefer a more classic look, but Toy Biz did give us that quite a few years ago now. But I think Hasbro would do a kick-ass job with a updated classic version of this character. They did it with the Marvel Universe 3.75-inch line. Why not do it for Legends, right? I guess they're just kind of holding out for the right moment, because Beta Ray Bill still hasn't got his time in the limelight as far as the MCU goes, other than a few second cameo in Thor Ragnarok, and that wasn't even him, that was a statue of him, much like the Man-Thing. So can we please get cooler characters like this in the MCU instead of ones like America Chavez, please and thank you? That would be great. That said, my thoughts of the MCU aside, this figure's great, and he has been a denizen of the desk for quite some time, ever since I got him actually. And what that means is I really like the figure and I put him there. That's all that means. They don't get a medal, they don't get a crowning achievement award, they just get placed on the desk and collect dust for X amount of years. But he's up there with Deathlock and Angela and Death's Head 2 and Ghost Rider and that Man-Thing actually, funny enough. But at any rate, getting into the articulation on this figure, it's got a ball hinge in the head. He's got some lollipop syndrome going on, which isn't ideal as far as aesthetic goes. He does have a bit of a gap on the back, but I think his head is sitting on the neck properly. I just think he needs a little bit more helmet back here. That said, you can also crank on that disc, get him to look up really, really well. That's really impressive. Back down. But you can get him to look up just with the ball peg itself, so that's something to note. He does have a hinged jaw, a little bit of gappage back here. They didn't finish the sculpt all the way, but it's okay. It's good enough for me. He does also have some tilt, and he can look side to side. As far as his arms go, his shoulders go out to the side like this, kind of hindered by the shoulder pads. But what are you going to do? Nowadays, I think they would just do that little ring thing around the shoulder joint itself, and it would rotate with the shoulder, which I'm hoping is what they do for a classic Beta when they finally get around to doing that. That said, you do get some rotation out of that as well. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, swivel at the wrist with a hinge. And something to note about this cape, while it does peg into the back like we're used to seeing, it is also connected in the front. The cape has these little rings that go around these little clasps that are attached to the shoulder pads. So it actually sits flush on the figure and is not riding up on Homeboy's chin, which is something Hasbro seems to struggle with the exception of the Doctor Strange I took a look at recently, or the 80th Thor that also came out the same year this guy did. And you know what? Off the top of my head, that's all I can think of. So, you know, fingers crossed for that Disney Plus wave Moon Knight. Hopefully he doesn't have that problem. But it's an MCU figure, and they shell out budget for those, so I'd be surprised if he did. That said, diaphragm joint. You can crunch forward pretty far. You can also crunch back. You can rotate side to side. He's got a little bit of tilt, but not a ton. And then from the waist down, this figure gets way less exciting because he reuses the Hyperion legs. But don't get it twisted. As much as your boy hates the Hyperion body, he hated it from the waist up. The waist down was okay. It was acceptable. Not exceptional, acceptable. And what I mean by that is the legs are the weakest defender as far as crap anatomy goes, as far as that base body goes. So he does have a waist swivel, kind of loose, not gonna lie. But he does have forward in the hips, pretty far, as well as out, again, pretty far. Thigh cut, double joint at the knee, swivel at the boot, hinge at the foot with a rocker and peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So, you know, these legs, I don't like them. I think this costume actually is supposed to have some added detail down here, but this guy came out long before Hasbro was shelling out dough for comic figures. That said, they could probably reuse this head and these arms for a classic beta. I mean, he's got the 3 fingers and everything, so, you know, that would be a really good idea. And another thing to note, this guy's legs were super warped out of package. Like, these are a little bit on the gummy side, even compared to Hyperion. So I don't know what the deal with that is, but I've given him good old Stormbreaker back. I really do like this figure, though. Despite my gripes with it, he's been a denizen of the desk since I got him. And, geez, that thumb. A little tricky to get his hammer in his hand, but he definitely ain't going to drop it. And since the handle is long enough, you can hold it with 2 hands and look like a total badass. Look at that. Gotta love it. But yeah, denizen of the desk for a number of years now. Again, ever since I got him. Right up there with the ones I mentioned earlier. I really like this figure. But once we get a classic one, I'm sure he will be replaced. That said, I was a little bit bummed when he wasn't announced as a Walgreens exclusive last year, since they were doing cosmic themed characters. Instead, we got another version of Carol Danvers. Because, you know, she's so much cooler than this guy, right? I don't know. I have opinions, and I'm going to say them because this is my video. And my opinions are that Beta Ray Bill is awesome, underrated, and underutilized. But he was at Superhero Squad Show, and he was absolutely hilarious, because he named his hammer Windbreaker. I know that's not mature, but neither am I. So with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here's Beta Ray Bill next to a couple other Thor-related characters from the Marvel Legends line I had sitting close by. Angela from the Titus Build-A-Figure wave, and Thunderstrike from the Joe Fixit Build-A-Figure wave. Yeah, kind of a bonehead move not to have the 80th Thor out, but hey, it's better than nothing, right? And last, but certainly not least, we have our 2 regulars, the Mythic Legions, Brother Mandibulus, and Eleven Spawn, who as usual, yep, towers over everyone. So with that being said, time to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and even though this is not my mind's eye view of good old Beta Ray Bill, I still think this is a solid addition to the Marvel Legends line, despite the fact that he does have the Hyperion legs, which in my opinion are the weakest offender as far as anatomy goes on that body mold. You guys know where my gripes lie with that body mold. I'm not going to say it again because, well, it's not present here. So out of sight, out of mind. But if classic is what you would like for your Beta Ray Bill, the old Toy Biz Legends one isn't all that bad. I think it still holds up pretty well. But if that's not your jam either, I'm pretty sure Hasbro will give us a classic rendition of good old Beta here at some point in the near to distant future, especially with Thor coming back to the MCU with his own series of movies featuring Jane Foster, Guardians of the Galaxy, etc., etc. I would not be surprised if Beta gets his time to shine in the MCU because, let's face it, he's established. He was just a statue in Thor Ragnarok for like 10 seconds. Come on, man! Give us the Beta. I need my zombified horsehead Thor in the MCU NOW now. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of Flashback Fridays. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when the MCU F's up your canon. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.